Let's just play a little jazz. Come on.
You know, for me, the action is the chess. Amen.
Feed for heels. Feed for heels. That's why I thought you was cool guy. Cool guy.
Commendatore! Welcome to a framework. I am Al Schwartz, doing a questionable Italian accent in honor of our picture today, Ferrari. With me, as always, is John Bernard.
It's a me, John.
Oh, we got to drop this bit immediately because we can't do Italian accents, and neither can everybody in this movie. I mean, they're doing all right, mostly. Aren't they?
Well, I mean, they're doing the thing where they're just like, okay, we're not really going to dwell on this. Let's just get over with it, which is for the best, right? I mean, this is not a House of Gucci situation. It's they seem authentically Italian to me in a way they don't in other films like this.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen House of Gucci, so I can't speak to that one.
That's a rough one.
But okay, there's three. This is a movie populated largely by Italian actors in all the supporting roles, with the exception of a few. There's Patrick Dempsey as the older race car driver, and then sort of the three leads: Adam Driver as Enzo Ferrari and his women. Penelope Cruz is Spanish, right?
Yep.
Which to American eyes and ears can pass for Italian just fine. You know,
It'll have to. Yeah, sure.
that works fine for me. And then there's Shailene Woodley, who makes the least effort of anybody to do the accent. And what she does do doesn't sell it to me. Driver, though, I don't know, man. I could definitely hear him doing a voice. He's definitely doing a big voice and a big accent. And it kind of works for me. I think just Driver is such a compelling presence that he carries me through.
Well, he's a great actor. He's an excellent actor. We're talking about Ferrari, the recent Michael Mann film, the 2023's Ferrari, his last released film, potentially his last film ever, because he's a very old man. We'll see if Heat 2 happens. And this is, of course, an episode of Mann-Splaining, the last film entry in this series for us on Framework. And a lot of Italia, a lot of car racing, a lot of secret families.
Well, there's one secret family.
There's a lot of it, though.
We're going to talk about, yes, that's the main thing of this, but that is one of those things that man is just sort of uncomfortable with his protagonist being unfaithful. So it plays weirdly. He's of course, like the real guy is something of a womanizer, but of course he's a very committed guy here who just has a second wife that he's more committed to than his first wife, who he's basically would be divorced from if they were not business partners.
I think there's definitely the implication that there are other women too, though.
Oh, there, yeah, it's mentioned, but okay, but like there's the mentions seem kind of perfunctory, and then what the movie is actually showing, like it's telling you one thing that there are other women, and then it's showing you that he's actually just really devoted to his second family, and like there's the moment where he's eyeing up the new driver's girlfriend when she comes to the track. And you think it might be setting up this sort of like romantic triangle or rivalry issue or whatever. But then he just says to him, like, get her out of here. You know, I don't want photographers taking pictures of this famous actress when they should be shooting my cars. And then later on, she shows up to the press conference and they start taking pictures with her. And there's a moment where Ferrari puts his hand around her on her hip and she kind of jumps, and it's just to scoot her out of the way so she isn't blocking the logo of the car. Like it's explicitly sort of like setting you up to think, oh, he's going to be like lecherous towards this woman. And then it's like, no, it's just about the cars to him.
Well, he's an older man at this point. You know, this is Adam Driver playing older. I mean, he's in his 50s.
That always stops them.
But, well, he's content with two lovers for the moment because he's got a lot on his plate in the summer of 1957, perhaps. I think he's definitely had plenty along, like that. That's certainly a thing. Although I don't know, Penelope Cruz, we're right into this, I guess, huh? This is no table
Well,
setting.
but this is the same thing we went through with Ali, though. Like,
Yeah.
Ali definitely had women all over the place, but the movie presents it as he just goes from one to falling head over heels in love with another and being like super devoted to her.
Yeah, I mean, this gets to the main thing that is kind of odd about Ferrari, which is that we've been tracking the man protagonist across, all his films now, and I think that more or less every film kind of has someone that fits into a general framework of that. Maybe not the keep, but pretty much everything else. Enzo Ferrari is not really in that lineage, or so it seems to me. He tries to force him in there a little. But it seems there's too many sharp edges that rub against the sides wrong, and this just does not feel like a man character to me, which is not a problem. It's kind of interesting to see him take this on.
Well, yeah, he doesn't inherently feel like one, and yet there are scenes in this where he's giving man monologues, and it's kind of
sure, mm-hmm.
Okay. I can see how he sort of made the connections. From himself and his own interests to Ferrari's life, but there are parts of it that man is just very much not an Italian guy. He is, and the whole thing of just casual mistresses and the way that he interacts with the press and the way he is John with people at the barber shop and I don't know that's not what man's comfortable with. His guys are taciturn professionals,
Enzo is definitely professional, but he's also driven by compulsion. It would seem to me. The racing stuff in this is compulsive. He can't let it go. I think he's got that line that I think is kind of the key to the character, which is what is it? The Maseratis they race so they can sell cars. I sell cars so I can race, and
yeah,
I think that's
there's a couple of. I mean, there's the part where he talks about his. Having two of his good friends killed in a race on the same day, and how he told himself after that, Enzo, build the wall around yourself to block out that bad shit so you can continue charging forward. And that's the man stuff. That's Neil McCauley. That's
sure. Yes.
Frank. They usually have to go to prison to learn about that stuff, how to build that wall and make their vision board that they can charge towards with their sort of monomaniacal intensity. But in this case, he's beholden to the historical record, and Ferrari did not go to jail. I mean, if he was given himself a little more leeway, I'm sure he would have had him be like in a prison camp in World War II.
Well, I mean, and beyond that though, like racing. I mean, this movie, I think more than anything, kind of demonstrates a passion for the sport of racing, which, taken in conjunction with his HBO show Luck, which, as we discussed, is kind of more of a Michael Mann thing, but nonetheless had his involvement.
Less of a Michael Mann thing and more of a David Milch thing.
Excuse me, that's what I meant.
How we were addressing it.
I mean, who knows what that really is, but I mean, it certainly seems so to us. But here's another big racing story, and racing seems very not Michael Mann to me, or maybe it's just sort of a boomer era passion for a certain kind of man's man. So maybe it makes sense there, but it is, it attracts sort of a degenerate quality of people that is not really his mise en scene. It's not his thing as portrayed in films.
I kind of disagree with you there. I think racing is a very Michael Mann thing. I think the aspect of it that isn't is the gambling aspect that is all over Luck. But racing, the act of racing itself, it's
it's a blood sport as presented here.
It's physically demanding, yes. It requires sort of like intense focus and rapid decision making, and it's life and death stakes when you're out there on the track, And that all feels very much of what Michael Mann is interested in. I mean,
I can see that. Yeah,
that's part of it. Flows out of what is so interesting to him about prison. Is that's a place where people live kind of life and death stakes constantly at a higher frequency than people do in the civilian world, and that's at least how he would present race car drivers as these. I mean, the way race car driving is presented here is almost the way that like bombing raids are presented in Catch-22. Just everybody's kind of waiting for their number to come up. They all. I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out it's a real historical fact that like before the Mille Miglia or whatever, like every race car driver is writing a sort of will and testament letter to their wives as a if I don't make it back type of thing.
They've certainly underlined how incredibly dangerous it all is. I mean, that's a massive, massive theme of this. And I mean, he's got a monologue about like our deadly passion, our terrible joy. They're really into it.
That's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, he's so good.
Best scene.
This race, the Mille Miglia, is like the scariest race I've ever seen. This is an insane thing that shouldn't be allowed. And apparently this was the last one.
Oh, it's lunatic. Yeah. I can't believe that this was ever done. But that's also the end of the movie. So maybe we should wade through the beginning and the rest of it first. Well, we start at the very beginning. I'd say the worst part of this movie is the opening sequence, which is more of that stupid 1930s shit that I was complaining about with Public Enemies. Just driver looking so stupid in his black and white goggles and this stupid shaped car with the wheels sticking out and like look like they're on connect sticks. And just sort of like bouncing and the stupid flapper music playing over it. Like this stuff kills me, man. It's so against what Michael Mann is so good at making things cool. And it's so not cool. I know. This movie is pretty good overall. It starts out with me just going, "Oh my God!" What, like, hands on my face. What? I don't know if it's an era thing. Like once they shift to color photography and like modern looking things, or just that Ferrari himself has now designed cars that they've crossed the threshold. The cars look cool now and look like they're genuinely fast. That bouncy black and white footage, it looks like those race car drivers are going like 18 miles an hour.
There's also sort of like tchotchke Italian music playing over it. It's not a fantastic opening. It's not quite the beginning of Miami Vice for sure.
Yes, that is quite a contrast. Yeah.
That said, this movie does take a little while to kind of figure itself out and get its hooks in. Yeah, there's definitely quality of kind of just like, okay, what are the relationships? What are the stakes? What matters? It's about a half hour before you really like, okay, this is the film. And I mean, it's not the most event packed movie as is. So there's a sense of sort of, I don't know, rewatching it this for the second time to do this podcast, I was a little more at ease right away with it because I was kind of like, okay, I understand the vibes of Ferrari and how this is going to feel, but it definitely is a bit more of a buy-in than usual. And I think maybe that's just not having much familiarity with Ferrari itself, or the man or the company.
Yeah. Does this feel like more of a biopic to you than Ali?
I mean, it's sort of unavoidably one, but it does the thing I like that a biopic can do, which is it says, okay, this is about a specific time. This is about, a couple months in the summer of 1957, when a bunch of shit went down all at once. I think without the context of the very end of the film, you don't really understand why we're telling this story now. But, it's a lot of things coming to a head all at once, which is the Mille Miglia, the selling of the company, secret family. It's all kind of going down right now. And so that's why this seems like an opportune time to check in with him and see like, well, this is the man kind of at the height of his experience. This is the most decisions that he is making, the most things going down at once, the most chickens coming home to roost at once. So
sure, that's
like
a good
that.
approach. Like we talked about that. I agree with you there. That is a good approach for a biopic to take rather than I mean, that's part of why I love a biopic that doesn't have a childhood segment. And
yes,
that's part of why that opening 45 seconds or whatever. I'm like, I don't need to see him as a 20-year-old racing stupid cars. I want to see him. Weirdly, I want to see him at 60 designing cool cars.
Well, I do want to see that he was a racer. I would like to see him behind the wheel at some point because it is sort of sublimated. The entire thing is kind of just him chasing that feeling a little bit,
Well, it kind of begs the question: if you're going to do a flashback of any sort, why not open with him racing on the day when his friends got killed, and then smash cut forward, to 30 years later? Is that just too many race car accidents in one movie? Does that?
I don't know if you can have too many race car accidents in one movie. This movie could use more, and there's plenty of them in it.
I don't know.
There's some big ones here, yeah, but they're kind of
there's two essentially, right?
Yeah, that's it, really. Mm-hmm.
But he talks about the other ones. I don't know. Would we need the racer dying in the opening, or not the opening, but the first act one that De Portago comes in to replace? Like, that's not the guy who dies is not a character we were really introduced to.
No,
doesn't even matter. I don't know. Maybe I'd rather see that be Ferrari and his friends die, so we have some backstory, it's his tragic backstory established more.
I don't know. I mean, I do think that scene, the first accident where the guy dies, the focus is on Ferrari and how he takes it, which is, he's got those walls up, kind of,
Yeah.
Just like, oh, that's no good. Okay. Let's handle this. Let's handle the grieving widow best I can, with the appropriate amount of respect. It's very, very professional and formal. And then he's right on to the next thing. Which, I mean, this is another thing. Are we supposed to like Ferrari? I mean, they don't really.
I like how
make
kind of unconcerned the movie is about that.
I do like that. Yes, it's pretty good. He's compelling no matter what. But yeah, it doesn't really seem to have an opinion on Secret Family, even as it presents it quite a bit. I mean, I think that goes to what you were saying. Michael Mann probably. It's hard for him to find much of an in with Secret Family, so he doesn't really try to convince us of how to feel one way or the other about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Driver is such a magnetic presence that you definitely don't root against him. You don't hate him. But yeah, the movie does seem kind of, even less so than Ali, is less concerned with
definitely
making you like this guy or understand why he's so, such a heroic figure or whatever. I mean, I guess his big sin is he's really, really into racing, even though he knows it gets people killed. But all those people know that too, that are participating, I guess, until we get to the end and that final crash takes down some civilians.
Does it ever? Yeah.
But it is odd, right? It's not a takedown of Ferrari, but it's not a hagiography either. It's
a tough one. I'm honestly still not sure, why he wanted to make this film. I mean, there's passion on display for sure, but I'm not sure what he wants us to understand about Ferrari, or what he wants to portray in the man beyond a passion for racing.
Those are, I guess, sort of two separate but related questions. There is what drew him to this material, and what does he want us to understand about the guy? And I think what draws him to the material is, one, he is genuinely into racing and Ferraris. I think he has owned his own Ferrari for many years. And there's stories about him motorcycle racing Daniel Day-Lewis on the Pacific Coast Highway when they were training for Last Mohicans. Who knows how apocryphal that is? But the other thing is that I think he relates to Ferrari as sort of a project manager. There's something about the way that he runs his factory. He's got his team of technicians that he uses, but he's also sort of a dictator of his factory / his movie set. And he's trying to make these high performance machines that, a Michael Mann film could be called one of those too. There's the part where he's talking to his son, like the one kind of warm moment he has with his son, where he's explaining to him that when a thing works better, usually it is more beautiful to the eye. And that is sort of how Mann's movies work to me anyway, that they're not ostentatiously beautiful in their cinematography. I mean, give or take some of Mohicans or Manhunter maybe. But the movies and their heroes are so ruthlessly functional that they achieve this sort of unaffected beauty about them. And there's a sleekness, I suppose.
Oh, there's definitely sleekness. Yeah. I mean, this is a stylish film.
Yes.
For as not Italian as Michael Mann is, and as not Italian as the three leads are to varying degrees, this movie does really bleed Italia to me. Italy to me. It has a real, a vacationer's love of Italy.
Yeah.
Like he's deeply invested in the streets of the cities and the countryside and the look and the feel of it and the ivy crawling up the side of the wall, and there's just honestly, I one of my favorite things about this film is just sort of luxuriating in the locations that it's shooting in. It's a gorgeous film just because of what it's photographing, you know. And you know, the cars themselves don't hurt there either. They're just cool to look at, you know. And
yeah, I mean, Italy is just an incredible place to photograph. It's one of those beautiful places in the world. You know, the landscape is amazing, the sea is amazing, the architecture is amazing, the preserved history they have there, and even the modern styles that they know how to dress, they know how Italian women know how to look. Man, it's impressive stuff. And they love to smoke, which always looks good on screen, you know. But we could be a little dismissive about it's a vacation or it's love of Italy, but I think he brings that sort of commitment, appreciation to setting to almost everything. You know, that he's pretty loving and committed to filming Chicago or not New York, but Chicago or LA in ways that other movies don't, and
that's
sort
true.
of digging into them.
And if you turn that at something as a subject as great to look at as Italy, you're going to come up with something for sure. And he does. You know, that is the appeal of the film to me. Honestly, probably the number one appeal is the travelogue quality of it. Yeah.
Oh, to me, okay. This will not be at the top of my Michael Mann list by any means. It'll be closer to the bottom, and that's because for me, the best part about this movie by far is the car races. And that's fighting against my natural urge to not give a shit about cars. But that's what this movie does best.
Yeah, these ones are really cool. And I think that's probably why you want to make this film, right? I mean, to do melee sequences, that's got to be a big factor. And
if this movie was terrible and everything, but gave us that melee sequence, then Diane knew and all. Like that would be enough to make this a worthwhile endeavor in my view. It's a pretty incredible sequence. That again, I want to push off talking about a little bit because it is the end of the movie. So the other thing that I'm pushing back and forth with here is Driver himself being, I think, fundamentally miscast, and that there's no reason I could see not to have an actual Italian in this role. Or if not Italian, at least somebody in their late 50s, early 60s.
Right. Yeah.
And yet, I think he gives a pretty great performance. And he's doing this really pronounced accent that I nonetheless don't find that like off-putting or laughable. It's kind of pleasant to listen to in a weird way. And just Driver is such a compelling presence to watch on screen that it kind of just powers right through it, I guess. I mean, would I rather have him robbing banks and shooting guns than watching people standing on the sidelines watching people race his cars for him? Yeah, that would be more compelling to me. But what are you going to do? That's nature of this beast.
I mean, it was developed with Christian Bale in mind to star, and then Hugh Jackman was going to do it for a long time. That one I could see, but I got to say I really like Driver in this, and I kind of really like Driver in just about everything.
It is weird that he is so singular and yet seems to fit almost anywhere you put him.
I love the way he's managing his career too, which is that he's working with people like Michael Mann, with Francis Ford Coppola this year, kind of
Ridley Scott.
Yeah. He's using his celebrity to kind of push things along that might not have gotten made otherwise. That's cool. That's laudable even. And he sort of, I don't know, works as I mean, hey, it's probably a great idea to work with great directors. That's one of the surest things you can do to have a lengthy career and make great
he's
films.
worked with all of them now, except for maybe Tarantino, right? I mean, he's done
Yeah.
a Michael Mann movie, a Coen Brothers movie, a Ridley Scott movie, a Coppola movie.
Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Hasn't done a Spielberg.
Baumbach?
Probably will.
He didn't do it. He went in the Fablemans or anything. Okay. He will.
Yeah. If Spielberg
he did a
wins.
Roland Emmerich. That's
Sure.
our generation Spielberg, right? No. All right. But the thing I guess, first of all, between Driver, Jackman, and Bale, I guess he's the third worst miscast there. Like, he's the best of those. None of those options sound like they would be right for this role to me.
Well, Jackman's the right age, I guess.
Yeah, but he doesn't look it.
No, I guess not. Sure. Well, who does play this? Who? I mean, you could say like John Malkovich, but you can't make this movie starring, like a weird character actor that might be appropriate for it.
It would have been incredible if it got Buscemi.
That's really good, actually. Yeah, it would have
He's
been
Italian American.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, no, this guy has Nucky Thompson energy, actually.
No, I don't. I mean, look, somebody if not Italian, somebody European. I think we kind of went over this with the Insider, though. Too, is that this is an increasingly rare form of miscasting, where it is casting someone too young for the part. Yes. The trend now that obviously you've heard me bitch about endlessly is casting people who are way too old for the part.
It's odd. I mean, I'm guessing it's just like this movie's a $95 million film. That's what they spent on it. And so the idea being, well, we need a star to market this. It's not a whole lot of hooks in this Ferrari biopic. So we need somebody who will sell this internationally. Let's get Kylo Ren.
But that is the weird part. It's not like there's a dearth of bankable stars that are in their, 50s or late 40s.
Well, who?
Even.
Who's the guy? Who's the guy, though?
Well, Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman or whatever. I mean, I don't like,
well, they tried.
I don't want Tom Hanks doing this accent or whatever.
Ooh. Don't threaten me with a good time there, man.
The thing is, increasingly, though, that there's less bona fide stars in their 20s and 30s, just because we kind of moved out of a movie star era as streaming has taken over. So, like, most of them, the big above the title guys, or your Brad Pitts and your Tom Cruises or whatever, they're all 55 now. And even DiCaprio's pushing 50. And they are above the title stars because they're sort of grandfathered in from an era when that was a thing. We're not really making new ones much anymore. I mean,
not as such.
Maybe Austin Butler is kind of pushing for that. I don't know, but
he's got a good position. But we'll see.
But Mann is like the only one going in the other direction. That's the weird thing. Driver, yeah, he's 8 years out from playing 30-year-old teenager Kylo Ren. Like that.
Yeah.
The enfant terrible of the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
I mean, we've had attempts, right? I mean, everyone else in the sequel trilogy. I don't know. Could Oscar Isaac have done this? He's a little older. I don't think. I mean, he's a great actor. I don't care about that. Living Heath Ledger would have been very good. That would have been cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
Could Oscar Isaac probably could have done it as well as Driver. I think they are of a similar age. I mean, Isaac has played, Papa Atreides from Dune, so he's kind of like done the older generation thing, at least recently.
Right.
I think it would be a similar issue, though. I mean, they're about the same age, and they would both be playing older. Isaac, a little more not American, at least.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't really want to replace Adam Driver in this. I think he's awesome in it. I think he works just fine.
He is quite good. I
kind of like seeing the high wire act of him attempting this and pulling it off. That's kind of one of the cool things about the movie. So I wouldn't change him. I think it's a really good performance. It's one of his better ones. You could have nominated this. I would have been fine with that. I like him a lot in the movie. I like
I think
Penelope Cruz
I think it is
more.
a really good performance. I'm talking a lot about miscasting, but that doesn't mean he did a bad job or that the movie doesn't work because of it. He overcomes it by just giving an incredible performance. Penelope Cruz also, like you said, great performance.
Kind of an amazing performance, actually, because this character in the wrong hands is a complete caricature, like a goofy, like, I mean, she is introduced waving a gun at him and shrieking about his infidelities, you know, like this could be an absurd characterization, you know?
Yeah, it's straight out of Walk Hard, though. Like
Yes.
this is biopic first wife shit. She's firing a gun at him because she's mad about his new girlfriend or whatever. And
they could have a scene where she chases him around with a rolling pin, and it would it would fit contextually. But she's so fucking good in this movie. She's incredibly good in this movie. This is a visceral, from the soul performance of this character. The whole thing just works when she's on screen. It's like this dark fire. It's fucking great, man. Yeah. Even as it just leans into these cliches, you know, like they have a scene where like he's asking for access to the corporate shares where she has just found out about the secret family that leads to kitchen table sex, which is also a cliche. That's a good scene. They pull it off somehow. I can't believe how good she is in this. It is it's remarkable. And the movie really doesn't do her too many favors either. Like she's photographed in the dark all the time. She's almost like presented as the villain. Not really.
Yeah, on paper. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what the first wife in the biopic. That is the bad thing that they do is they present her as sort of the villain that's holding them back and whatever. I would say I want to highlight just an incredible physical performance. The way that she channels, walks like an elderly Italian woman. You know, and that is something very specific that if you just watch her like bringing home groceries towards the end of this movie when the press are hounding her, you can see it. And that is something, you know, she is such a graceful person in real life that she is clearly doing intentionally. But
oh yeah, just a damaged soul. I mean, I think I almost feel like this wouldn't work if this wasn't where Mann kind of found a lot of purchase too. Like I'm honestly not sure how they pulled this character off as well. I guess it just comes down to Penelope Cruz really, really nailing it. I mean, the thing about her though is that we do have this empathy for her position because of the dead son, because of Dino, who's died recently. And she finds out over the course of the film that Enzo has another son in the back pocket that she didn't know about. That's fucked up no matter what biopic you're in. And she's not wrong, because we also have seen him compartmentalize and put up walls and be able to stop caring about, you know, car accidents or bad things as they happen. That's just something he's trained himself to do. So, you know, she's not wrong. Even if we know he cares about Dino, he visits the European tomb and has sadness and regret about it, and the name, all that stuff. But you know, at the same time, he is who he is, and he's got the secret family. So yeah, of course we have empathy for her, and of course Mann has empathy for her. So even with all the dark witch photography of this character, yeah, you know. She's not wrong.
Well, I mean, you're right. But in a weird way, I almost think the dead son stuff is not on its own enough to get us over the sort of structural thing of she's going after our protagonist all the time and going after him over his dead son. Like that. Like, I think there are examples of stuff like that overpowering any level. You know, Skylar White, we should have absolute sympathy and empathy for, given what she's gone through. And if we are feeling human beings, we should be more sympathetic to her than to her husband. And yet, because of the power of just the structure of narrative, when somebody's standing in the way of our protagonist, our brains look for ways to justify our frustration with them standing in the way of what we're trying to see happen. I think one of the things that makes me like Laura and Penelope Cruz in spite of that is that the Shailene Woodley character does not work for me. And as much as she is the more positive relationship for Enzo Ferrari, I do not like this performance. I don't think I really like this performer. And I'm never rooting for the secret family. I kind of wanted to get her licks in. Penelope Cruz is.
I can't disagree, man. I think that Lena Lardi is probably the least effective thing in the film, and it probably comes down to casting. I think this is just a miss casting wise. A powerfully not Italian actress, powerfully modern, does not fit in this world at all. A couple nice rustic frocks, but aside from that, I'm just like, this is taking me out of the world. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's pulling off. She's serving the looks, as they would say, just fine. But I don't know. This is I must have missed the Shailene Woodley boat because I don't know what I suddenly knew. Was aware of her as somebody who was an up and coming, kind of respected actress. She was supposed to be the real deal. And I don't know. I've seen her in a couple of things that she has never impressed me in. She was ostensibly the most sympathetic of the Big Little Liars as well. And she was a point of view character there and had this horrible, traumatic backstory like you're talking about. Should have been enough to pull me to her. And yet in that show, I always just wanted her scenes over so we could go to the other ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the more fun roles in that for sure, the catty roles. But I mean, her things were, she had an indie hit in Spectacular Now, and she had The Fault in Our Stars, which was a very big, teen lit big deal thing. And those kind of made her a star.
Yeah.
For mostly think for younger people, which then fall into the Divergent films, of course. Who can forget?
I think many people can forget.
That's the one they just gave up on halfway through. They decided to split the finale into two and then just never made the last part. Very funny.
Great stuff.
And I don't know. She continues to just sort of show up in roles, and never particularly well used, never worse used, I think, than in this, because this is actively deleterious to the film itself.
Yes.
I don't think she's bad per se. She's bad in this, but she's just doesn't do much for me. And there are a lot of people could have done this well.
But it's weird how that, rather than singing the movie, that lifts up the Penelope Cruz angle of it for me in a weird way.
Maybe so. Yeah.
I mean, look, it doesn't do the movie any favors. Those are the scenes I want to fast forward to in this. I mean, again, I'm as shocked as anybody to find out that as I'm watching this movie, I'm fast forwarding to get to the car scenes because I don't usually give a shit about cars.
Oh man, how do you not give a shit about these cars though?
They're great. They look incredible. And the racing. The final race is. Mann's got some incredible action sequences under his belt between the heat shootout, the finale of Mohicans, the club and Collateral.
Yeah.
But man, this is a 30-minute. There's some breaks in there to check in with Enzo doing whatever, but this is a really tour de force of a sequence.
It's the reason the film works. I think you would have to say is that the race at the end is totally worth it. It's really exciting. It's really cool. I can't believe as I'm watching it that this was allowed, that this was a thing they did. This is some post-war life is cheap. We were a ruined country, kind of they were doing it before the war. This goes back years, but yeah, it's just it's like a 1,000-kilometer race, a circuit through the Italian countryside, where they're just driving these race cars, at top speed, just down country roads, residential lanes, and
city streets.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. It's almost shocking that many people aren't killed every year in this thing, but apparently not. It just looks like they're doing, a chase from Ronin, and it's a sport and a national holiday. It's a wildly dangerous looking shit.
And they're going through. They're going through the countryside. You're kind of okay, these are kind of it's 1957. There's not freeways. There's not gridlock traffic anywhere because there's not that many cars out, I guess. And then they're on the streets of Rome, or just like barreling through, and there's like a few cubes of bayed hail as their only barrier between like all these cheering crowds and these sports cars careening around at 60 miles an hour through these cobblestone streets. It's insane. And was real, obviously. We should, that's the thing. He didn't like make this up.
I mean, by showing the Colosseum, are they making like a direct connection to gladiator combat? Because that's what I'm reminded of. I was like, oh yeah, the Italian tradition of blood sports. Yeah.
Oh, I just think it's, if they were going through Paris, you'd show a shot of the Eiffel Tower.
Sure, yeah.
You'd see Big Ben if they were in London, whatever it might be. But right. But you're not wrong about the Bloodsport connection here. They do present this as a thing that is probably going to kill a couple people.
They talk about it. Yeah.
But it's supposed to only kill the drivers. It's sort of what they have accepted.
Right.
And the tragedy at the end of this is that one of the drivers has an incredible accident that sends his car into the crowd and kills 9 spectators, including 5 children, which is just brutal. How do you feel about this? The actual the crash, the way the crash is shot. It got some flack. People thought that the CGI looked silly, I guess.
Not at all. I think it's one of the most horrifying shots I've ever seen. Honestly, terrifying. I mean, I guess I can kind of like be like, well, I mean, obviously it was CGI. I mean, like it had to, yeah. But I've never seen a car accident shown or portrayed in that way. It actually does some stuff that I'm used to, which is sort of like a car flipping in midair in slow motion, and then all of a sudden we're in fast motion, and it just smacks into a crowd of people and just wipes them down. Like fly swats them off of the counter of a table, and it is shocking. It is. It's honestly, it's one shot. It's one shot of gruesome, and it is just honestly, I felt like standing up when it happened in the theater. I was just, it's kind of terrifying, honestly. I felt the exact same way, that the way it just wipes through them, like it takes out this whole row of human bodies without slowing the car's like trajectory or altering it in any, like registering the impact in any way. It feels like it's going so fast. And that it feels, if you ever see actual footage of like disasters, if you're ever unfortunate enough to see like air show disaster footage or something, what is so shocking and upsetting about that is the way it doesn't, when you're watching real footage, it doesn't register the impact the way we're used to seeing in movies, with sound effects and like sort of punchiness. It's just like, oh no, this giant hunk of metal that's moving so fast its trajectory does not care about these hunks of flesh in the way of it. It just rolls right through them without missing a beat. Yeah. It's upsetting. Yeah, it is. It's got to be, if not, I mean, I hate to use hyperbole, but it might be the most visceral and upsetting car crash I've ever seen in a film. I mean, I don't know. That seems big, but it's got to be in contention. Coming as it does at the end of this film. There's been car crashes already. I mean, so the ever-present threat of car crash, is in this film, and I think we're kind of aware there's probably going to be a crash at some point during the Mille Mille. I wasn't, historically aware of what happened, but honestly, just all the fact that Deportago has a gorgeous blonde wife that is very in love with him is enough to suggest he's probably going to die.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. They introduced you enough of the racers that it could have been Patrick Dempsey or whoever.
I suppose
took the lost, but I don't know. I just pulled up the Mille Mille on Wikipedia.
You saw the picture then? Yeah.
No, I did not see the picture. I was just astounded. I took from this that this was sort of like that maybe drivers had died, but this is a big enough tragedy that it shocked everybody. Whatever. This says over its 30-year history, a total of 56 people died, 32 of them spectators.
Okay, well,
That is 32 spectators? The Roman Colosseum didn't kill 32 spectators.
we just got out of World War II. Life was cheap.
This is from 1927
That's crazy.
on, man. This is World War I guess.
Okay.
Set the
Jeez,
table
well,
stakes.
sure. Oh my God. That's well, it's not surprising when you see what this thing is it? I mean, like, of course. But there's
an
a picture
average of almost 4 fatalities per race in the 10 years leading up to 1957. That is
Jesus Christ. Stop doing the melee. Well, they did.
I know.
They did ultimately. There is a shot of De Portega getting kissed by his wife or girlfriend or whoever this woman is. Like in real, it's the last picture that was ever taken of him. It's.
I'm sorry. I'm still hung up on this. Could you just imagine if we had? Do you think we would change the NFL if we had like 2 last Boy Scout situations a season?
I don't at this point. No, I think we would keep doing it. Actually, I believe if the NFL is, we can. I think killing people in our sports is probably the next step that we're going to hit in the next 20 years or so. I think we're getting there.
I think actually because he uses a gun, people would leap to the defense. If he used a knife, it might get some changes, but the gun aspect would activate the fetishistic gene that we have around that. All right, I'm sorry. You were in the middle of saying something about the actual movie.
Sort of. There's a picture of De Portaga kissing his girlfriend. It's the last shot of him, and it's like a famous picture, and they call it the kiss of death, which is striking to see after watching the movie. Yeah.
Well, I said it's a striking sequence. It's the part I was willing to slog through all the Shailene Woodley of it all, and then the earlier biopic stuff to get to that. I mean, there's some fun stuff in the earlier going. I like the sequence in the where they know that the Maserati people are doing the test on the track, so all the Ferrari workers are in church holding their stopwatches, listening for the starting and stopping guns. That's great, and that monologue, the Michael Mann monologue about the terrible emptiness in their stomachs, the cruel emptiness, detachment, loyal to one thing, the lust to win. That scene is great. But sort of like between a couple of those moments, I'm really kind of just marking time, waiting for the race to start, because the racing footage is incredible. These things look like they're going so goddamn fast and so close to out of control, and the scenery is beautiful, and something terrible is coming. So it's a hell of a sequence. It is.
So I really like this movie. I got to be honest, man. I mean, despite the Shailene Woodley, I think this movie works. I think it's kind of. I mean, it's surprising that it's a 10-year wait after Blackadder, 9 years, and we're kind of aching for a Michael Mann film. He puts out this, which is, I don't know, it's probably the least typical Michael Mann. Like, having watched all these in a row, I don't know, unless we're, I always like to disregard the keep. But for the most part, this feels like he's not really doing his Michael Mann thing. He's not chasing his old stuff. He's doing something kind of unique and original that he wants to do here. And yeah, I'm not a biopic fan, but the vibes of this one are good. I enjoy this movie. I liked it when I saw it first. I liked it more the second time. Yeah, I think Ferrari's a pretty good film. And
well, this... Yeah. Maybe there's something to get into in the rankings more, but is this, again, accepting the keep, is this or Last of the Mohicans the bigger sort of outlier in his filmography? They're the ones that are not present-day crime movies.
Right.
Even The Insider, you could stretch the definition of crime, I suppose. It's how we think of as a crime movie as a genre, but it is a movie about a crime. But, I mean, even the biopic aspect of it surprises me. You think of Michael Mann as doing crime thrillers, but he's done now several biopics. If you count The Insider, if you count Public Enemies, those are historical. I mean, Insider is more contemporary to its release date, but he's done more of this period piece stuff than I would have thought now. But does Last Mohicans feel like more of a piece because even though it's not a crime thriller, it's life and death stakes and shootouts and fights.
Yeah, and I mean he's pretty good at those too. I don't know if he's as good as he is at the the crime epics, but I don't know. Last of the Mohicans is probably the biggest outlier, considering the breadth of the career, I guess. But maybe Ferrari is kind of just how he is as an older guy. I don't know. The talk is if he makes another film, it's going to be Heat 2, which is, right back in the wheelhouse. So if that does happen, we will see where he's at with that. And I'm interested because the book certainly works. But, the book
works, but it's sort of a hard, it's not an easy adaptation to just put the book onto the screen.
Oh, certainly not.
In a way that makes sense. I don't know. I'm putting my money on we get Heat 2 ends up with a executive produced by Michael Mann credit, not a directed by him. The man's 81 years old.
Ridley Scott is the same age. He's got 5 more movies on deck. These people are, I don't know. They're not like other people. Yeah.
That's true. I don't know.
I'm surprised we got this one, frankly. I kind of thought he was done. Yeah. I'm thrilled we did. This is a cool elder statesman film to make. And not like a lot of other films. I could see myself warming to this and coming back to it. I think it's I think people are going to appreciate this more later. Even as it is kind of not the most active film, not the easiest to explain narratively either. It's very much until you get to the melee, it's kind of hard to see what the story is, I would say.
I agree with you that I'm glad this movie exists. I don't like it more than Black Hat, but I would kind of hate it if he went out on Black Hat, which is something that I think he considers kind of a misfire.
Right.
And I don't want to see him end on that. This movie is not as tailored to my tastes, but it is a better made movie than Black Cat in some ways. And I think Mann is happier with it, how it came out probably. And so I like that for him.
Well, it was also a bomb. Maybe not as bad as Black Cat, but
Black Cat was kind of notorious. And I mean,
yeah,
particularly like the 1-2 punch of luck going into Black Cat. I think that took something out of him.
Yeah. I mean, well, if he comes back and he does Heat 2, I guess he can just do that, like he's always got that in the back pocket now. So, and I don't know how much longer he has to go afterwards. So, whatever. He can always make Heat 2. And that, I guess, is the plan moving forward. Okay. Hey, did we just talk about the last Michael Mann film? I guess. I think we did it then.
Yes, so far.
If this episode works, which we will find out later, we have just covered it. Okay. So usually we have a guest for the last piece of the filmography, and that guest picks the next director that we're going to do. We don't have a guest today, though. So what do we do?
So I pick. And I pick the Coen brothers.
Okay, let's do the Coen brothers next. Sounds good to me.
I want to do them since we started. And our guest, once we started with Tarantino, and I had my thoughts of, well, after this, we'll do Michael Mann, the Coen brothers. Those will be like the first 3, and then we'll figure out what to do. And then our guests never seem to have gotten the memo that I had those expectations unarticulated. So now we're getting around to it. And I love the Coen brothers. I think all of their stuff is interesting at the very least. And
oh yeah,
some of it's the best movies ever made. So
yep, there's a couple of the best films ever made on that list for sure, and they're all good to varying degrees. 18 films. We're going to talk about the Coen brother films for the rest of 2024 and perhaps beyond, however long it takes, because we've been wanting to do this since we started this thing. And yeah, so I don't know when that'll start in a little while, but be Blood Simple and then the rest of them. All right. But we will talk about Michael Mann one more time when we talk about the rankings and the career as a whole and what we hope for him going forward, if anything, etc. A final, just sort of a digesting and considering of the Michael Mann filmography. That'll be very shortly coming up on the framework.
Yeah, we'll ask, what did we learn a la the final scene of Burn After Reading?
All right, so join us then. Thank you for listening to Mann-Splaining. I'm John, that's Al. Arrivederci.